Well, welcome back to another episode. Miguel, I am so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
This is so cool. I've been digging into Funalytics and checking it out, and I am blown away by everything it can do and just the importance of having a funnel and really understanding what's working and what's not for you.
Yeah.
I think that's it's such an important thing to know. And a lot of times, as entrepreneurs and small business owners, we are creating stuff and just putting it out there. And we think our job is done. We have no idea if it works or doesn't work. What you created is just so valuable for all of us. But before we dig into what exactly Funalytics is and how you can use it for your business, tell us a little bit about the story behind Funalytics.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been doing digital marketing for a little over a decade now, which is kind of weird to say, to be honest. And I've been building my own businesses since, yeah, around 2010 ish is when I kind of started. And honestly, I kind of became obsessed with this idea of how do you convert a stranger into a customer? Like how do you make that happen? Like I went to school for engineering, so it had nothing to do with business, had nothing to do with marketing. But this idea really kind of captivated me, and it was sparked mostly because I used to have a t-shirt business, and it's funny, it's like everybody starts with t-shirts, right? It's just like the starting point for everybody. Hey, I'm
I
gonna.
baked. I didn't have T-shirts,
Oh,
but I
hey, you
baked.
know what?
So
It's all in the same kind of. It's
yeah,
like I can do
right.
this thing. So,
Yep.
um, and when we had all these t-shirts, my friends and I, we were just trying to figure out how do we sell them, and it kind of led me down this rabbit hole of this thought or this idea of how do you get a stranger who's never heard of you before to buy your stuff. And I started learning about pay-per-click advertising and organic traffic and SEO and affiliate marketing and conversion optimization and funnels and emails and copy and all these little components of this insane puzzle that is marketing and customer acquisition. And as I got pretty good at it, I decided to start an agency where I would focus on helping businesses convert strangers into customers. And the way we would do that is by building their funnels and by mapping it out and basically showing them this is how we are going to get a random person on Facebook or on YouTube or wherever to go through these various steps, these sequences that we've created and that we've architected to then buy the thing that you're trying to sell or get on a call with you, right? Whatever that core action is. And as I was doing that with all of my clients, I would map it on a whiteboard because the minute I would show it to them, they would get it. It would make sense, right? They're visual, as are most of us. And when you see it, when you can kind of see the picture of how we're going to build this growth engine, something clicks in your head, right? But then you got to look at, is it working? Is it not working? Because it never works the first time. So it's like, okay, cool. Let me go and spend some money on advertising. And wait, how come I didn't make any money on the back end, right? So
Yes.
so now you've got to ask yourself, okay, well, where do I tweak? What do I fix? What's not working about this? And the challenge that we always faced was, well, I've got to look at spreadsheets and charts and graphs, and I've got to log into Google Analytics, and I've got to log into Facebook, and I've got to log into Stripe and my CRM, and I've got to try to connect all of these things and somehow represent it in the same picture, right? To basically understand where is this flowing. So the idea with Funalytics was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could just on a digital whiteboard map this entire strategy and just kind of visualize it, but then click a button and overlay all of the data right there on that same canvas, and I could see how people flow through it, and I could understand what's working, what's not, where are the bottlenecks, etc. So fundamentally, that is what Funalytics is, and that is the tool we started to build. And I originally built it for myself, but I guess other people cared and wanted it, so it grew from there.
As you're talking, I can relate to so many of those pieces, right? You're logging into all these different platforms, trying to pull the analytics, and then even though you can access it, trying to make sense of it
Yeah,
and how does one impact the other. And you're talking, and I'm like, I wonder how much time I spend looking at all of those. And it's just really pulling the data for you
yeah.
in Funalytics. That's crazy. So walk us through a couple of those key features. You did tell us, what it's like, but go a little bit deeper. Try to paint a picture because you do have to see it. So if you're listening, hop over to like funalytics.io after this podcast and check it out because there are videos that kind of show you, but can you paint a picture of how it actually works for
Yeah,
the end user?
yeah. So think of your customer journeys as three core types of touch points, right? So one of the things that we always want to think about is we need to put ourselves in the shoes of the person going through our website and going through the stuff that we've architected, not from a business standpoint where we're thinking about it in terms of dollars and cents. So first thing I want you to do is think about it from a standpoint of a customer. Well, there's three core things that happen. Number one, a customer or a person clicks on some sort of traffic source, whether that's a paid ad, a social media post, a post or a blog post that's ranking on Google or whatever, a review site, etc. Right? So they click and they come to your site from some sort of traffic source. They then, when they land on your site, navigate various pages, right? So they'll go from one page to another page, and they'll start to navigate that thing. And then on those pages, they do specific actions. So actions being, let's say, a video view, right? Like they click and watch a video, or they click a button, or they maybe do something more that is conversion based, which is fill out a form and actually, submit that form or make a purchase or schedule a call, let's say. But those are the three core categories. You've got your traffic source, you've got your pages, and you've got your actions. Now, what I can do in Funalytics is I can just go and map those three things. So I can visualize how are people moving from the traffic sources to the pages, what pages are they navigating, and then what actions are they doing on those pages, right? So I can just kind of visually map all of this onto this canvas. So depending on what your business is, if you're an agency, it's a really, really great way to sell a client, right? To show them like, this is what we're doing to get you more customers. And if you're an in-house kind of small team business, it's a great way to just align everybody, to get everybody on the same page, because now we can visualize it. We can understand what is happening with our growth engine. Then what happens is with Funalytics, all of these, if you think about it, is again just a touch point within somebody's journey, right? So when you install the Funalytics tracking script, which is just like installing any tracking script, whether it's Facebook or Google, you just install our base tracking script, and we will start tracking all of the people that come to your site. We'll track all the traffic sources they come from. We'll track all the pages that they visit. And if you were to just imagine one person and you were to look at their timeline of everything they've done, well, we would just see a series of these individual steps in their timeline, right? Well, what Funalytics does is it removes all of the complication of you having to manually try to understand, well, which people made a purchase, and was this page a touch point within that timeline, or was this traffic source a touch point within their timeline? And it just surfaces all of that data onto this canvas, right? So it'll just basically connect all of the touch points onto the canvas, and now you'll be able to instantly see what that looks like and where those conversion rates are What are those drop offs? How does one thing contribute to another? So fundamentally, that is how it works. Now, in terms of features, we've got a lot of really cool features in terms of like diving really deep into the data, segmenting, being able to highlight specific countries or whether it's mobile or desktop, and seeing how that makes a difference, or things like that. But at the core, that is really what it does and how it works. I can get super technical if you want, or I can keep it high level.
No, no,
Depends.
yeah, no, we'll keep it. That's a great description, and I appreciate that. So let me ask you, like, I'm gonna give you a little bit of an example and tell me if this is something Funalytics can do and
Mhm.
how it does it.
Yep.
So let's just say that I've got my website, I'm creating social media content, I'm sending out email, and I'm running a paid ad, whether it's on Google or Facebook and Instagram. And my goal is to get people to my sales page and to convert.
Yep.
And let's say that nobody, it's just not converting.
Yep.
So what would your platform show me where that gap is, where the disconnect is?
So it'll show you where people, all the way to where people are dropping off, right? And it'll also show you what people are doing on that page, which is really cool because a lot of times you don't understand. Like, you build a page, a sales page, and you have a video there, and you have it really long or whatever it is, and you don't know. All you see is, okay, well, 100 people landed on this page, nobody bought. Well, what does that mean exactly? Well, this is where you have to be a little bit more analytical, and you have to start thinking about, well, okay, did they do anything on that page? So Funalytics will tell you, did they click any buttons? Did they watch any of the videos? Did they just leave and like literally just get there and leave right away? And based on that, this is where now you have, we don't have AI features just yet when it comes to insights, although that is something that we are very much looking into, where it can kind of start to tell you based on this data, well, what is your recommendation, right? However,
Oh,
this is
that'll
where
be not to
that'll be really
interrupt you,
cool. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
that's so cool.
Once we have that, and we can basically tell you, a whole lot of cool recommendations. But fundamentally, this is where now you have to, by understanding what is happening, you have to now make some adjustments to your funnel. So let's say people come to your website and you just see 100 people um, come, and nobody bought. Okay, well, that doesn't tell you much. But what if
Right.
you had 100 people come and 90 of those people watch the video all the way until the end, but still didn't buy? Now, what are you thinking? I'm going to return
Yeah.
it back to you. What would that?
Yeah, so
What
now
would,
I'm thinking, okay, so either the video didn't explain it well enough to close them, it didn't hit on their pain points, it didn't share the solution, so it didn't convince them, or whatever led them there it didn't convert. It just something needs to change to
yeah.
get them to actually pull the trigger.
And I think that is where learning performance marketing in general is extremely valuable as a skill set. Like, Funalytics makes it easy to visualize the data. It makes it easy to see what's working, what's not. But you still have to interpret that to some degree. You
Mhm.
still have to sit there and say, okay, yeah, you're right. People did not, they came to the page, they watched the video, but they still didn't buy. So now my problem isn't that they're not interested because they watched the video.
Right.
So the problem is that the video just didn't do a good enough job convincing them that this is a big enough problem and that they should buy this thing, right? And that's where experience comes in and starts to help. At the end of the day, Funalytics is not a miracle tool in the sense that you still need to know marketing, you still need to understand the marketing aspect of things. But what it will do is give you very clear understanding of what people are doing and what they're not doing in this really visual way.
So it sounds like it's helping marketers or the end user really make like data driven decisions
100%.
when it comes, that's such a neat tool. Is it just for marketers? Is it for small business owners? Like, who is this designed for?
Good question. It was really designed for marketers. It was designed for me as a kind of marketer who's responsible for customer acquisition, right? So I'm responsible even as a small business owner. It's still my primary job to figure out how do I acquire customers. However, there's a big difference between somebody's job in the moment versus somebody's skill set, right? And I think
Mm,
we've got to be clear as to who is truly wearing that hat. So, as a small business owner, your biggest challenge is, well, I don't have the money to hire a marketer at this stage or somebody who's going to help me with customer acquisition. Therefore, I need to put on that hat and I need to operate this. So, when you look at Funalytics, you're still ultimately looking at data and you're still looking at stuff that a marketer typically looks at. You're just putting on that hat at that moment. That can be a challenge for a lot of people, right? Because a lot of business owners aren't marketers. They've never
right.
learned this stuff. They're not, they've never spent the time. Maybe they read one or two Russell Brunson books, but beyond that, that's really it
Right.
at the end of the day. So um, Funalytics was fundamentally designed for marketers who basically are sitting here and are saying, look, it's my job to find a stranger and convert them into a customer. Now, what makes Funalytics unique for small business owners is the fact that they can now see this, right? They can visualize this. Um, we find that the biggest challenge business owners face is they try to make data-driven decisions without having any data. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah,
Yes, I agree 100% with that.
well, and that's the thing, right? So a lot of times we make decisions um, strictly based off of, "Ooh, it didn't work." Like, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, you're right, but wait, you only had 10 people go to this page. Like, you can't really make much decisions off of 10 people going to your page. Like, what if the next one converts, right? Like it's and
Right.
that's one of the challenges that small business owners face is when they start their marketing campaigns and they start to try to figure out how to acquire customers, they make these rash decisions based off of very, very limited data. And when
Mhm.
you have very limited data, you're really not making a smart decision. You're just saying, well, I don't think this works, so let me jump on to the next tactic and the next tactic and the next tactic, right? Um, and it costs money to generate enough data,
Right.
right? It costs money to if you want to send 1,000 people to your website, and the cost per to send that person on a Facebook ad is $3. Well, you've just spent
Yeah.
$3,000 to really test whether or not this thing is working, right? So, and to
Mhm.
get enough data to basically say, okay, actually, yeah, enough people are watching this video, it's just not converting. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It makes complete sense. So, I kind of have I guess, a trick question for you. It's not really
Okay.
a trick question. It's just I'm curious of your viewpoint because you mentioned having limited data, and I agree with you. What would you say limited data is? And that can either be conversion or traffic or time frame. How do you know if it's limited or if you should keep testing?
That's a good question. So it's actually a combination of all three. But let's break it down a little bit more. So time frame. Time frame is very much dependent on what you're selling and how much it costs. So, for example, if I'm selling something for $7, it shouldn't take me 3 weeks to sell it, right? It's $7. Somebody should be able to
Right.
pull out their credit card and buy it. Um, versus if I'm selling something for $10,000, okay, it's going to take a little bit longer to have a few conversations with that person, build enough trust, etc. So you have to factor in time frame depending on the price in which you're selling something. So that's number one. So that means that if you're selling something really expensive and you're spending $1,000 on ads here today, don't expect that that $1,000 will come back to you in 24 hours. So you have to realize that you're going to be spending $1,000, for a while until you kind of start to convert that group of customers. In the SaaS world, we kind of call that they call it the CAC payback period, which is the payback period that it takes to acquire your customer, right? So your customer acquisition cost, that's what CAC stands for.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is the payback period for that? So let's say somebody is paying me, I don't know, $100 a month. It costs me $1,000 to acquire that customer. That means I'm going to get the money back in 10 months, right? It's going to take
Yeah.
10 months before that money comes back. Well, you have to have that mindset when it comes to, again, pricing and all that stuff. Now, next is, do I have enough people going through my funnel in order for me to measure this, in order for me to see whether or not I'm acquiring these customers? So there is I have like a rule of, I don't make any decision unless, like, at the very baseline, 100 people, but you realistically it's like 1,000 people, right? So if I don't
Okay.
have 1,000 people going to my page, I can't sit here and say that this is 100% what the conversion rate is going to be. Very minimum has to be 100, right? Because if
Gotcha.
we're talking about a percentage conversion rate, let's
Yeah.
say I got 50 people. Well, one more person converts, that changes my conversion rate completely, right?
Right.
Versus, okay, once you're at 100, now 10, okay, that's 10%. Kind of,
Right.
makes sense, right? So you have to have enough people. You have to understand the price point. So you have to have enough time frame between how many people land and the other. And then the third thing that you kind of mentioned is just understanding um, what it costs to get those 1,000 people, right? So you have to be willing to also play the game of, again, this customer acquisition versus lifetime value versus payback period time frame. So
Right.
in other words, if I'm selling something for $10,000, I should be willing to at least to get that first customer, spend at least $10,000 to get that first customer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that means that I'm going to be spending $10,000 upfront, because there's going to be a lag between me getting that person to convert in order to make that happen. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And then as I spend that $10,000, now I'm going to start to see some data. It's going to, okay, I'm going to see 1,000 people land on this page and 20% go to the next step. And out of that, 20% schedule a call. And hey, I got one. Cool. Okay, great. And it took me 3 months. Okay. So now I understand that if I spend $10,000, 3 months later, I get one. Okay. Well, what if I am able to tweak this and now I can get two? Cool. I spent
Mhm.
$10,000. 3 months later, I get 20,000. Right.
Right. Right.
And a lot of times, the reason people like these low ticket, small price products is because I don't have to spend that much and test for that long to understand, when am I making my money back. If I'm selling something for $7, that should be an impulse buy, right? That should happen right then and there, not in 3 weeks from now, right? So
Right.
now if I go and spend $100 and I don't get one person to buy for seven, okay, maybe I need to kind of start looking at it. But then
Right.
again, let's say it costs me um, $10 to get that a person to my page.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm saying, okay, well, I spent $100. It cost me $10 per person to get to that page, and I didn't get one customer.
Mm.
Okay. But I'm really saying I didn't get one out of 10. I didn't get
Right.
100 people really to that page to understand, is it the page? Is it the ad? Like I'm
Right.
right. So I'm,
Right. Yeah.
making an emotional decision based off of the $100 that I spent, as opposed to, oh wait, it's only 10 people. Like, what's the likelihood that I convert 10 in the first try? Right.
Right. That right there is the key.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you said was really valuable, right? But that last component, when you said it's not the $100, and a lot of times as a business owner, we're looking at, well, this is what I've spent already.
Yep.
But you do have to look at the other data. So thank you for sharing that, because that was packed with a lot of really good information. So we talked about Funalytics, working with like Google Ads, social media platforms. What other um, what other types of software, like a CRM, like what does it connect with?
Yeah, so you can Funalytics uses its own tracking technology. So you install just Funalytics like you would Google Analytics or whatever. And then you can actually use Zapier if you want to pass any data back into Funalytics. So we'll connect with all of the platforms, but through kind of Zaps and webhooks and all of that kind of techie stuff. But really, what you're passing back into Funalytics are those conversion actions that I mentioned earlier. So a purchase, a form submission, because Funalytics will automatically track anything like a video view or a scroll or a button click. We'll track all that for you instantly. So we don't have to worry about that stuff. All you've got to make sure is, okay, well, somebody, let's say, filled out a form on my website, and now they're a deal in my sales pipeline in HubSpot, right? And they
Right.
move from the first stage to the follow-up stage. Well, Funalytics, you can send that back to Funalytics to understand, hey, how many people from Facebook ads actually went into the follow-up stage or the deal lost
Mm.
stage or whatever it is. So we'll be able to push all of that information back from your various platforms.
Very cool. So, for everybody who's listening and who's interested in trying out Funalytics, what's the best way to get started?
Simplest way is go to our site, funalytics.io. And it depends on whether you're at a stage where you're in map mode, which is what I like to call, or you're in performance mode. So basically, there's two types of users that come into Funalytics. There's the people who are there to really visualize their strategy and are kind of at that let me map my strategy level. And then there's the people who are in that performance mode where it's like, I need to understand what is happening with the data. I need to understand, like, things are working somewhat. We're spending money. There's traffic here, but I need to understand where are the bottlenecks and how can I make more from my existing marketing. And that is the performance mode. So come into our site and based on that, decide which one makes more sense for you.
Perfect. Miguel, thank you so much for coming on. I am. I'm definitely going to go check out Funalytics even some more. I'm like, I see it just being a benefit and helping in so many ways. I'm like, oh my gosh, the time I could be saving by using this would be amazing. But
That's
thank you
awesome.
so much for coming on. I appreciate having you here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.